Hello guys, welcome to the Trading Parrot. A bunch of buy signals are currently triggering that I want you to be fully aware. Yesterday we did a lower low on lower time frames, but it hasn't managed yet to exit the trading range of 112.5. Could it be that one of these buy signals is gonna give us some upside? Well, we've been talking about that, to be honest, in the past few days, so the scenario is still potentially in play. Yesterday I left in my channel this question. If you haven't seen it, go to my YouTube landing page, find this question, and make sure that you leave some questions below, because I'm gonna make a dedicated video answering every single question that has at least 2 likes. People are asking me everything, even how many beers I have in a week. It's been really entertaining to see all the questions coming in. Make sure that you give a like to the questions that you want to secure an answer. My promise is, it's got more than 2 likes, I'll have to answer it. If you're looking for an exchange to trade Bitcoin and altcoins, and you want to spend very little time and maybe possibly opt out from doing KYC, then consider Tubit. This exchange was built by the same people from Bybit. It's been crafted really great, it's easy to use the UI, and as soon as you sign up, they give you $50 for free to trade. Now, if you deposit your own funds, you get up to 30,000 in trading bonuses. The link is in the description, and I'm gonna look into some tweets before looking into the actual TA. Remember that this channel is data driven, so we'll look into the order book, the signals, we'll explain everything, breaking it down for you. Videos tend to be longer than any other channel with shallow content, so make sure you're aware that there are timestamps in the description to navigate through the different topics in this video, including general markets, altcoin general review, and all of that. Prices are down, but Tether is printing out fresh USDT. Martin is saying new mints have surged in the last few 2 weeks. Typically, they need to mint when there is more demand of deposits into exchanges of fiat that they need to move into USDT, so they are able to trade with it. We see it normally during pumps or slightly before a pump. There is a huge deposit of USDT, and that's why this is calling so much attention among traders. There's been so far few deposits, but they have already made the move into the bear flag that stopped the price roughly around 118 coming back. But the point of Martin is that there's consistent inflows of USDT coming into exchanges. And yeah, one of the signals that could turn into a buy one is the short-term holder capitulation is here. Bitcoin short-term holder SOPR just dropped sharply below 1. And that means just one thing. Tons of people are selling at a loss, and when that happens, we tend to find local lows. Personally, I look at the SOPR with this view, and I do it together on Bitcoin and Ethereum to give me a little bit more magnified view of the market. And as you can see, we have managed to settle a sell signal, an SOPR signal. This is a buy signal, and it triggers when you pinch the lowest band in here. We have done it also in there. Those are just events telling you too many people sold at a loss. For example, this one managed to push the price 4% up, but there are plenty of them in the past that were precisely print right before even an 80% up. So it just says there was an over exaggerated amount of people selling at a loss. That's it. And it happened concurrently on Bitcoin on the same day and on Ethereum as well. We got a double bottom in here with 2 weeks to the downside on Ethereum. Maybe that is the buy signal short term that we need, like it happened in here, and then we get slightly lower. Impossible to tell. Remember, I'm interested in Ethereum below 4K. On Bitcoin, I already have a long small position. Axel is saying that the market structure has shifted, with the composite index falling below the 0.4 negative threshold, indicating bear dominance, a negative fast slow EMA spread accounting for the trend, and price positioning in the lower part of the 21-day Donchian channel. The market has transitioned to a corrective range bound mode. Bounces are currently relief rallies rather than trend restarts. Within the channel, key support is located at 109.5. Key support is located there. Holding this level and returning the structure above 0 will restore the bullish regime with a retest of 117.7. So focus on the areas where we are below that 0.4 and see what's the current expected behavior. Yeah, that could put a new low, which we are prepared to do, DCAing if we get into 107 or slightly lower. If you are part of my Patreon community, I will let you know. Do not worry, you will be not just informed, but actually first one to know with an email sent to you and notifications within the Patreon community. Now, all of that goes live within 24 hours, so you don't have to join my Patreon community, you will still learn about it. One reason why Bitcoin prices have weakened, the whales are net selling. So yeah, short-term holder is selling, but the whales as well. There's a little bit more of fear in the market. That is absolutely truth. We have been for at least 3 days in a row in fear. Today we are at 44, yesterday 43. It's not an extreme fear, not yet worth slapping yourself really looking for longs. 147k Bitcoin since August 21 has been reduced. The total balance is declining at the fastest monthly rate of the cycle. And yet people are starting to wonder, is this it? Is this the top of the market? Personally, I think there's low likelihood of that, but it's possible only if we get a general market huge puke. And from that end is where I feel like, yeah, it could happen. I just feel like we need to have a huge move. And for example, here, Mr. Anderson, I'm not sure he's the actual author of this post because I've seen it so many times. Everybody's copying each other. Remember, big influencers, big following means no substance, no brain. They just hire a bunch of monkeys to copy each other's posts and they regurgitate into the poor retail whatever they find. Well, I'm doing a little bit of that, but to keep you aware of what everybody's looking, right? We are not buying why they are puking into other people's mouth. Bitcoin's weekly Bollinger Bands are now the tightest in history. What does that mean? Well, this is about volatility, right? Bollinger Bands become really tight when the price doesn't want to move, and you can calculate the Bollinger Bands with literally there's an indicator called BBW, and it's showing us on the weekly time frame the lowest reading at least since 2016. So that's 10 years lowest volatility. And when you get lower volatility, that doesn't necessarily tell you direction, it just tells you that you are within a squeeze. In this case, it's a weekly squeeze, so don't get tempted to think, oh, in the next hour this thing is gonna blow. It's gonna blow in the weekly time frame, so that could take tomorrow, next week, or even in 2 months. And still, as long as that volatility continues to squeeze, when you span out in the weekly time frame, you're gonna conclude, oh yeah, we were all that time, all that period in a squeeze, and eventually it blew up in one direction. In this case, of course, these people are obsessed that it has to go up, it has to go down. We say we don't know. I think there's more likelihood to the upside, but I'm open for it to fail and to be to the downside as well. And we got a good morning supposedly from Sam Bankman-Fried. It got discarded that it was a friend that has access to his account, just like his other friends had access to your FTX accounts to do whatever they wanted with your money. You see the pattern. And as a consequence of this, FTX, FTT coin pumped 50% or whatever it was. This just show you who you're trading against. Look, people just see a good morning and they buy the coin speculating. Dan Crypto Trades is saying that BTC is sitting at its local support. This is a key area for the bulls to hold in the short term. And I agree, we've been saying that since we took the long at 112. We said, yeah, this is support. It has been support. It has been resistance multiple times. So it's worth a small long. Yesterday we put a new lower low, but we came back to 112.5 or so, and we are waiting for a decision. And Lark Davis is saying, and I know many of you don't like him, I don't care, I'm just reading what people say because it's good to be informed anyways. Ethereum is doing a second retest of the support line. This line also represents the multi-year resistance that held ETH down. Yeah, and I agree with that. You can see here on the weekly how we have broken out and we are still in a period of retest that by the dollar is testing that $4,078. Going slightly below support could be maybe a great opportunity. The range from 4,000 into 3.5, anywhere there could be a great opportunity to enter in a long, assuming that we hold at 3.5. If we go slightly lower into the area between 3.5 and 2.4, that is too gray area, slightly too bearish to recover after we have already done a V recovery. We don't want to mess and come back to that area. On-chain College, which focuses mainly in on-chain, of course, it's saying saying that to bet that Bitcoin has stopped already is simply betting on a lower probability outcome, in my opinion. Previous cycles, you can see the MVRV score hitting levels over 7 at the very least for the peak of the market. In the past cycle, it was lower than the previous cycle stops, so expecting somewhere slightly lower than 7 could make sense, but so far we are been around the 3, which is even half of what we did the previous cycle that was already diminishing, and that is kind of what's driving many people, including Matt from Bitcoin Magazine Pro, thinking that we should get a bit higher than that. Quinten is saying, just leaving this here, you can see the comparisons between 2017 and 2025. There is one full cycle in the middle, but many people are comparing it because of some similarities in the price action. If this plays out the same, we should initiate an impulsive move. In this case, it's talking about 200k. And although many people refer now to M2 as to continue to do higher highs into 22.2 trillion, so far it seems to be going a lot into general assets like S&P, Nasdaq, gold, pretty much everything, but Bitcoin and crypto still lagging behind that higher expectation that people used to have, at least in the past 2 months. I was sick and tired of listening that the M2 must pump Bitcoin into a new all-time high and into way that 200k. I'm leaning towards new higher highs. I'm not sure about that 200k though. Some news in here. I came back to ChatGPT because Gemini keeps just hallucinating, and I ended up giving some news yesterday that were completely off. Sentiment is 7, 6, and 6. The top one is crypto investment products see 1.9 billion weekly inflows after the Fed cut. That's from 2 days ago. We've seen 2 days of the opposite. You can see in here 2 days in the red, although today we're slowing down with the selling pressure on the 23rd. Today is 24th. We still don't have a reading for that, but we got the opposite with Ethereum. Ethereum has doubled on the 23rd to 140. Still is not as much as 400, but this is starting to speed up on Ethereum. And remember, interpret Ethereum as higher risk than Bitcoin. So I see Bitcoin slowing down on the selling, but still being on the selling side, and Ethereum speeding up to double as there is additional fear at the moment in the market. That's my interpretation, at least from the psychological perspective. Number 2, slightly bullish with 6 Bitcoin steadies under 113k as traders eye Powell and Friday core PCE after 1.7 billion leverage flush. A large leverage reset, as we've been saying, usually signifies tons of slippage coming in, kind of a reset, and it calls for a lot of shorts that then help having a little bit of a move up even before going for a new low. A large leverage reset is what we got. Near-term volatility likely around Powell remarks and PCE, direction set by data, but cleaner positioning is constructive. And another 6 out of 10 slightly bullish. Glassnode record options open interest around 500k. This is from yesterday ahead of September 26 expiry. Key spot levels is 115.2 and 105.5. Elevated options open interest is a near-term catalyst for sharp moves as hedges roll. Pinning or gamma squeezes could amplify BTC's break from the current range. So this supports the event of a exit from the squeeze on Bollinger band, but since the Bollinger band is on the weekly, not necessarily. It could be later. So I ask, as every day, my community what they want me to include in this video. There were not many answers today. Things are a little bit quieter, which is by itself a bullish sign. And the only question I have for Bitcoin as of today is from Alex. Looking at the bullish divergence on the 4-hour RSI, what are the chances we blow past 115 to 117 and not pulling back again? So in my opinion, to increase the chances of not pulling back again, we need to find the answer on the daily. Remember that yesterday we touched the support of 40 intra-candle, but we closed at 42, we could say. If we bounce from there into daily resistance, we're gonna meet with 58.62, which in the price that is 117.3 more or less. If we close above that, we get a daily breakout. If that holds that 117.3 as support, then we can say that this was just a higher low and that we are still in an uptrend. Not still, but we are building an uptrend that could span all the way into 122 and possibly see all-time highs. But for that, we need to secure that breakout in here doesn't turn into a fake out on the daily. The 4 hours so far is in a breakout and is gonna meet next with resistance at 52. I have calculated that is located more or less at 114. That is precisely where we complete consuming the first fair value gap that overlaps with the daily fair value gap at 114. That's the lowest hanging fruit. I'm tempted to go into 115 so we can complete what I yesterday called the scene of the crime. Going back into the scene of the crime is still on the table, particularly after having had this local breakout in here. Then we're gonna meet with 52. Hopefully we get there and we cross it. We get a 4-hour breakout. Post that, we need to get the daily breakout. So there's a lot of steps still to count victory and start thinking of a full V recovery. Alex, so not saying it's gonna happen necessarily. We are still in the context of a bear flag. In the past 24 hours, the most important things that are currently affecting macro is what's going on with China, according to Reuters, which could slightly lower the trade war uncertainty. We continue with geopolitical issues like you can see in here, and Powell insisting in the no risk-free path keeps doors open but non-committal on more cuts. Dovish leaning but cautious, supportive of sideways consolidation in BTC. No fresh weakness reduces odds of emergency style easing, neutral for BTC. Remember that if we have to apply rate cuts in a state of emergency, even if it's a double cut, a 50 basis points, that has a completely different interpretation from traders. They're gonna potentially panic if they have such a scenario on the table. We want sustained, controlled, full of peace kind of cuts. We do not want panic cuts. So on Tuesday we formed a CME gap, but it got so fast filled that I didn't get the chance to let you know. Of course, you can always, prior to my videos, just go once a day to my Telegram channel. You can find the link in the description, and then on any of the posts you just click TTP charts and you can request the CME chart fresh print with all my annotations. You can do that for free 1 or 2 times a day, and that's how easy you can learn what's going on. As you can see, there's an anomaly here. I see here a flag descending, a descending channel that on Binance is breaking out but still not putting higher highs. But look at the price action on CME. This bad boy is at 113,760, which, yeah, that makes sense. That is price in CME, but relative to these highs, we are already at higher highs on CME, whereas on Binance, we are still at lower highs. Is Binance gonna follow up and manage to put a higher high? If we do that, we can get a horizontal breakout, right? If we put the resistance like this and Binance follows up with this premium currently on CME, we could be seeing Binance also to follow up with our trip into the scene of the crime that we were flagging yesterday. We do have a lower low in here, but if it's in this context, it's not necessarily bearish because it can break out from here. We can calculate the high of this triangle and maybe even pierce higher than the resistance thanks to this more elevated high of the pattern. None of the things that I'm saying in here guarantee that the pattern is going to play out. It just shows you what is the potential. The accumulated energy within that pattern now can bring us even higher, assuming it plays out. And the Bitcoin status is up to date, so I'm gonna share it with my community so they can see it in real time. Every time I take notes, they can read that. So you can see the 4-hour how it's printing higher highs and higher lows and it's breaking out. It's basically telling us that there is an elevated chance that we go into the resistance of 52, which is almost 114. CPR has been about to lose the final pivot. If we do that from here and we continue, we increase the chances to go to the first CPR support of the month of September. Notice that this area in here, if we continue at this speed, meeting with that support puts us on the 5th of October. Well, unless we do something extremely violent and we just literally fall, which we can see in here that that speed can only be seen on the 7th of July to the upside. So if we had that speed in here, yeah, we can get there before the end of September. But early months, usually within the first 10 days, we tend to have upside, whereas by the end of the months, we tend to have a bit of downside, not always. So yeah, yesterday I already mentioned the leverage squeeze signal number 2, which tends to be better quality. I show kind of the past performance in here. You can see it. You can stop the video and spend some time, or you can just go to my Telegram channel and request this chart, or get access to the actual indicators from my Patreon shop. If you want to purchase a subscription, you get like, I don't know if it's 100 indicators, but there are tens of indicators more that you can access. The second signal was the SOPR, which I already covered. Remember, we are in a period of liquidating longs, but eventually that needs to flip in liquidating shorts. So let's keep the focus on that. Let's have a look at the liquidations and the order book. Nothing has changed that much from yesterday. Of course, we haven't even decided between 1 and 1, top or bottom, but we have this liquidity in here at 109, very close to the price, and I find almost impossible that if we go to 1, we don't go to 2, because 2, you can see, is like, I don't know, 4 times more than 1, and it's just next to it, 3k lower, and we get all of that for the market maker. If we go for 1, 2, yeah, we could go there and not necessarily go all the way to 130, because there is some vacuum in the middle, so that is more debatable. But if 112.5 holds in here, then the next move should be something like this, potentially into 120, 121. That's kind of the risk if you are in a short from here, we could say, or it could slightly extend further into 126 and then take all the largest liquidity that we currently have. If my bear flag plays out, it could form a double bottom. That's the most bullish targets to the downside, or it could extend slightly lower into even below 100k. The 107 still has no contender in the last 3 months of liquidity. On the 30 days, the biggest level is 113.9 together with 118.8. Those are equal, and on the lower end 109.1. Purple whales still not waking up, not interested in taking significant longs. Indeed, they do nothing but closing. Brown whales are continuing up, as you can see. Purple ones are the ones that lead the pack usually, but they do it so quick that it's sometimes difficult to chase them if that's something you want to do. Currently, immediate resistance into 114 is quite heavy, and in terms of support, we do not have enough really to hold or to push this chunk in here of 2k followed by 3k after, and then 800. We can see how that resistance at the highs is coming back down into 120. Are they thinking that is less achievable to get 123, or are they expecting a move into 120 next? I don't know, but now you know what they're doing. So let me know in the comments what's your reading of that stare of liquidity coming back down, chasing the price. There is a slight twist in the order book that I want you to see with me here. In the past 2 days, there's been everything dominated by ask. We had only red at all deviations, even close to the price, as you can see in here, which makes sense with Market Monkey Terminal. You can see it in there, definitely winning against bidding. But now 1 to 2 and 2 to 5 are starting to be in the green. What's going on? Are they wanting to defend this flag and potentially we get a breakout at some point? I don't know, but something is slightly changing at these hours in the morning of Wednesday. Support continues to be quite weak, between 5 to 20% deviation of the price below, and 20 and beyond now has a green as well. So we got 3 greens and 3 reds, but before it was all red. So that's kind of the change in the order book. Longs continue to climb. That's what we want. We have achieved 62 and now at 60. Keep it going, guys. Keep it going with the global longs shorts accounts on Binance, and eventually it's gonna be just too much pressure to contain by the shorts that are already in a position, and maybe they can get squeezed and take all that liquidity there. After all, that delta continues to grow day by day in here, and eventually it can blow in their faces. That's why we have a small long, but they are defending very strongly these fair value gaps to not go higher. I'm just hoping that too many shorts enter and it's just impossible for the market maker to let that opportunity go. An overcrowded side, in this case the shorts, is the perfect recipe to just squash them, even if we are going lower. Let's go into general markets and let's observe how we closed yesterday. It was pretty much in the red yesterday. The DXY now is testing again the resistance of the falling wedge. Remember, this is a bullish pattern. The RSI is already in a channel to the upside, as you can see there, we have had a breakout 2 times in a row. So if that RSI together with the high bullish signal manages to exit from here, we get just another increase in the chances of a rally into $100 or so for the DXY. That is not necessarily great for Nasdaq, for gold, for S&P, and for Bitcoin. But Bitcoin has been lagging behind the S&P and the Nasdaq. So one of them is going to have to make the real move. And I mean the real move is, what's the final direction? Is it going to be a dump or a pump? Are we going to end up saying that the narrative is that crypto led the move down because it did it before? Or is the Nasdaq and S&P going to continue to rally, and crypto's going to follow up with that, and maybe this DXY just comes back for a new low into 95.7. If we do that, guys, if we do this breakdown below 96.5 on the dollar, we're getting a multi-year breakdown against what the hive is saying. Notice that in 2021 we got the hive, and that was a huge rally of DXY starting from the first low of January 2021, and it stopped rallying in 2022 in the bear market. So if this hive is again correct, it's been correct already 2 times in a row, not always in here, it didn't play out, but multiple times at the lows it tends to play out. So if this plays out, rallying DXY, small continuing correction, let's see who wins. I am still waiting for Japan to have a breakdown. Japan tends to do things in the recent past prior to S&P and Nasdaq because it can drag everything with it. It's got that power. So looking at the Nikkei, it has had from this double bottom a massive rally in here of 50% in just a few months from April. We got a high bearish divergence in there, and there's been already some damage in here. So if we place the line like that, there was already a breakdown, fake out, and this one fake out, and this one, who knows if we break this line, we're gonna get further fake outs, or if we finally are gonna break down. If we got a breakdown in here, a decent one on the Nikkei or in the 10-year bond on Japan, that could drag everything with it. Why am I thinking like this? Well, because it has happened already in the recent past that we got a spike on the VIX thanks to Japan, and the VIX is also saying I got a hive. So you got the hive bearish divergences on the assets that are rallying, and the VIX is saying now it's my turn to pump. Dollar is saying it's my turn to pump. So that can drag a little bit further, but eventually it needs to do it. Now, timing indices is a serious skill. I'm not claiming I'm gonna know everything, and I do tons of mistakes. So please don't make life-changing decisions based on this or any other video out there. I have no clue what I'm doing. Nasdaq could still run a little bit higher based on these liquidations that we see in there. S&P, as soon as it finished with the liquidity, it's printing a daily candle in here in the red. That's yesterday's candle, so we'll have to wait until it reopens. But I think so far is intra candle is in the positive. We got 664 yesterday, we closed 663, so not looking as bad as we closed yesterday. And altcoin season now is at 76, so if we hold in here, we will have managed to do what I say is possible, which is to reclaim altcoin season. We are back in altcoin season, guys. This doesn't mean, oh, now I need to buy. No, you are in altcoin season. When you are in altcoin season officially based on this index, you have to think, where am I gonna sell? Where am I gonna sell all the crap that I bought during Bitcoin season, right? And we were talking about being in Bitcoin season that is not gonna last forever, that we need to accumulate. That was prior to my holidays, but you got all this way up. They appreciated all these assets. They outperform Bitcoin. You can see in here all the ones that are currently outperforming. And if you are holding some of these ones, well, you have to start thinking, where are you going to start selling? Not necessarily today, but have a plan, put stop losses, think trailing stop losses, and have an exit strategy unless you really want to mess up. We still don't get the breakdown of USD against Total 3. That should give us further continuation into altcoin season. Remember, guys, I said I tend to lean towards the idea of extending a bit further the altcoin season. And I said that against the fact that in the previous altcoin seasons in this cycle, they lasted nothing. Here, we came back for just one additional day. I am hoping that that's not gonna be the case. I insist, I lean towards the idea that we're gonna get a little bit more of altcoin season. Hopefully, general markets are not gonna spoil that party. Ethereum at least is holding decently, so we do not have major signs of it has to end right here. Things look okay-ish for continuation. So let's do the video summary for today. We got on the breakout, we got on the 4-hour breakout, and we need to see what happens after we meet with this resistance at 52, which coincides with a price of 113.9. There are bullish divergences on this RSI, which is quite promising. We are in a position at 112 and looking forward to see how much we can squeeze off the long, considering that we got a ton of people wanting to short in here. Our best bet is that additional people that want to short are gonna cause a short squeeze just because of those ratios and all that liquidity in the delta liquidation pools, saying that we can squeeze them out for two secondary targets. Either we produce a V recovery thanks to that and we continue into October into something bullish, or we see rejection in the scene of the crime, which is 115, and we continue to deepen into a little bit more downside in September, in the last week of September. If we do that, if we get a bearish end of September, that is, in my opinion, fantastic for October and November. If we close September, put in an all-time high, people are gonna say, oh, and now we are in October. They call it Uptober. And then I start feeling, yeah, that could turn into the trap. So it's not gonna make me very confident to deal with large longs if that's the case. Daily time frame held support. If we continue to hold that support, we can start talking about 58 RSI on the daily, which could bring the price into those highs of 117. Holding that, and we get this scenario of V recovery. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like, subscribe, write down comments down below like a maniac, and remember that the next upcoming video is going to be me opening up, answering all the questions that you left in that post. Go to that post before I read it again to make sure that your questions get asked about me. It can be personal, it can be anything, and scroll through the questions, write down comments to other people's questions, or hit the like to make sure that you pump those questions up so they make it to my video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.